Today's reading brings us to one of the most surprising chapters in Genesis. While the story of Joseph just began, Scripture pauses to tell us about Judah, one of Joseph's brothers, and a deeply personal, flawed, and unexpected moment in his life. We'll read from Genesis 38 to 1 to 39 to 23, which includes Judah's scandal and then returns to Joseph's test of character in Egypt. These verses contrast failure and faithfulness, temptation and integrity, showing us that even when people fall, God continues his redemptive work, and when people stand firm, he honors them. Let's read now from the King James Version, KJV. Genesis 38 to 1 to 39 to 23, KJV. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned in to a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son. And he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son. And she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Shezib when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, Lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua Judah's wife died. And Judah was comforted, and went up unto his sheep-shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Wilt thou give me a pledge, till thou send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose, and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot in this place. And he returned to Judah, and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said, that there was no harlot in this place. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after, that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot. And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man, whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet and bracelets and staff. And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son. And he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass, when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt. And Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. This section presents two powerful and contrasting stories, one of moral failure and one of moral strength. On one side is Judah, whose decisions lead to scandal and shame. On the other is Joseph, who remains faithful even in chains. Together, they show us that no matter where we are in life, God's hand is always working. Judah separates from his family and marries a Canaanite woman. He has 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. Marries Tamar, but is struck down by God for his wickedness. Judah tells Onan to marry Tamar and raise children in his brother's name, but Onan selfishly refuses and is also taken by God. Judah promises his youngest son to Tamar, but delays and avoids fulfilling that promise. When Tamar sees this, she disguises herself and waits on the road. Judah, not recognizing her, believes she is a harlot and sleeps with her. He gives her his signet, bracelets, and staff as a pledge. Later, when Tamar is found to be pregnant, Judah calls for her to be punished. But when she presents his own items to prove he is the father, Judah is forced to confront his actions. He says, She has been more righteous than I, acknowledging his failure. Tamar gives birth to twins, Pharez and Zara. From Pharez will come the lineage of King David and eventually Jesus Christ. This painful and complicated chapter shows that God can bring redemption even from brokenness. Judah failed, but God still wove grace through the mess. Meanwhile, Joseph is in Egypt, sold to Potiphar. The Bible says, The Lord was with Joseph, and everything he does succeeds. Potiphar makes him overseer of his house, recognizing that Joseph carries divine favor. Potiphar's wife tries again and again to tempt Joseph, but he refuses. He tells her he cannot sin against God. One day, when she grabs his garment and he runs away, she falsely accuses him. Joseph is thrown into prison. Even there, God's presence never leaves him. Joseph finds favor with the keeper of the prison, who puts him in charge. Everything Joseph touches continues to prosper. This passage reveals the power of integrity. Joseph had no protection, no allies, and no way to defend himself. Still, he chose righteousness. While Judah hid his sin and judged someone else, Joseph lived in truth and endured injustice with faith. God was present in both stories. In failure and in faithfulness, he was working out his purpose. And that purpose is still unfolding. Thank you for reading with us today as we followed 2 very different paths, Judah, who stumbled into failure, and Joseph, who stood firm in faith. Their stories remind us that God's grace can meet us in our worst moments, and his presence never leaves those who choose integrity, even in the dark. If this message moved your heart, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Bible studies, powerful prayers, and life-changing truth from God's Word. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you can walk with us through every chapter. If you're struggling with temptation, shame, or injustice, leave us a comment or message us. We would love to pray for you and encourage you through your journey. All Bible verses used in this video are quoted from the King James Version, KJV, which is in the public domain and freely available for use. Our commentary, explanations, and additional content provided are original and intended for educational, inspirational, and devotional purposes. Please note, all interpretations, explanations, and commentary reflect exclusively our channel's perspective. No matter your past, God is still writing your story. Whether you're in the pit, the palace, or somewhere in between, He is with you, guiding you toward His promise. Today's reading continues Joseph's incredible journey, showing us how God begins lifting him from the depths of prison into a place of influence. We'll read from Genesis 40:1 to 41:13, where Joseph interprets dreams for Pharaoh's officials, and the door to his future begins to open. This section reveals how faithfulness in small places prepares us for greater purpose, and how even in waiting, God never forgets His promises. Let's read together from the King James Version, KJV. Genesis 40:1 to 41 minutes and 13 seconds, KJV. And it came to pass after these things, that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. And they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing, that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket it was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forget him. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fatfulshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and leanfulshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-felshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream. But there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. In this passage, we see a turning point in Joseph's journey, even though the door to his destiny has not fully opened yet. Joseph continues to live faithfully in prison, forgotten by men, but never forgotten by God. What seems like delay is actually preparation. Joseph meets 2 of Pharaoh's officers, the chief butler and the chief baker, after they're thrown into prison for offending the king. Both of them have dreams on the same night and are troubled. When Joseph sees their sadness, he asks about it and offers to interpret the dreams, reminding them that interpretations belong to God. The butler's dream involves a vine with 3 branches that blossoms and produces grapes. Joseph tells him it means that in 3 days he will be restored to his position. Joseph asks him to remember him and mention him to Pharaoh, explaining that he is in prison unjustly. The baker's dream involves baskets of bread on his head and birds eating from them. Joseph interprets this to mean that in 3 days the baker will be executed. Just as Joseph said, both interpretations come true on Pharaoh's birthday. However, the butler forgets Joseph completely, and 2 more years pass. Then Pharaoh himself has troubling dreams. In the first, 7 healthy cows are eaten by 7 sickly ones. In the second, 7 full ears of corn are swallowed by 7 thin and withered ones. No magician or wise man in Egypt can interpret the dreams. This is when the butler finally remembers Joseph and tells Pharaoh about the young Hebrew in prison who correctly interpreted dreams 2 years earlier. These moments show us that Joseph remained consistent in character, even when he had every reason to give up. He used his gift in a place of confinement. He honored God with his wisdom. Though he was forgotten by people, God remembered him and positioned him exactly where he needed to be for what was coming next. This chapter teaches us that even in delay and disappointment, God is working. Our job is not to rush the outcome, but to stay faithful in the present. Joseph's breakthrough began with small, quiet acts of obedience. Your breakthrough might too. Thank you for joining us in this powerful reading from the life of Joseph. Though he was confined, forgotten, and waiting for deliverance, Joseph remained faithful. He interpreted dreams, encouraged others, and honored God even when no one gave him credit. What the world forgot, God remembered. And what looked like delay was actually preparation for something greater. If this message encouraged you, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more deep Bible studies, heartfelt prayers, and inspiring messages from God's Word. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a chapter. If you're in a season of waiting, silence, or being overlooked, please leave us a comment or send us a message. We would be honored to pray for you and your family. All Bible verses used in this video are quoted from the King James Version, KJV, which is in the public domain and freely available for use. Our commentary, explanations, and additional content provided are original and intended for educational, inspirational, and devotional purposes. Please note, all interpretations, explanations, and commentary reflect exclusively our channel's perspective. You may feel forgotten, but you are not. God sees you, God remembers, and your story is still unfolding. Today's reading brings us to one of the most dramatic and transformational moments in the story of Joseph. After years of waiting in silence, God lifts Joseph from the prison to the palace. We'll read from Genesis 41 to 14 to 57, where Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams, earns a royal promotion, and begins to save Egypt from a coming famine. This passage reveals how God can move in a single moment, taking someone from obscurity to authority. Joseph's faithfulness in trials is now rewarded with a divine assignment that will impact the entire world. Let's read together from the King James Version, KJV. Genesis 41 to 14:57, KJV. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee, that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 pinny, fatfulshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kinny came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and leanfulshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kinny did eat up the first 7, and when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them. But they were still ill-favored, as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kinny that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath the daughter of Potiphar priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath the daughter of Potiphar priest of On bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil, and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said, and the dearth was in all lands. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. This passage is a powerful moment of divine reversal. Joseph, once a forgotten prisoner, is now called into Pharaoh's palace. In one conversation, his entire life changes. But this moment did not happen suddenly. It was the result of years of faithfulness, humility, and trust in God's timing. Pharaoh summons Joseph after hearing of his ability to interpret dreams. Joseph stands before the most powerful man in Egypt and immediately gives credit to God. He says, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. This reveals Joseph's heart. Even after suffering injustice, he has not grown bitter or proud. He still honors God first. Pharaoh describes his troubling dreams. 7 healthy cows are devoured by 7 sickly ones. 7 full ears of corn are swallowed by 7 thin ones. None of Egypt's wise men can interpret the dreams. But Joseph does not hesitate. He explains that the dreams are one message from God. 7 years of abundance are coming, followed by 7 years of severe famine. He also tells Pharaoh the dream was repeated to confirm that it is established by God and will happen soon. Then Joseph goes further. He advises Pharaoh to appoint a wise and discerning man to manage resources during the years of plenty. Pharaoh, impressed by Joseph's wisdom and integrity, declares that there is no one more qualified. He places Joseph in charge of all Egypt, second only to the throne. Joseph is given royal clothing, Pharaoh's ring, a gold chain, a chariot, and a new name. He is also given Asenath as a wife, and she bears him 2 sons before the famine comes. Joseph names them Manasseh, meaning, God has made me forget all my toil, and Ephraim, meaning, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. These names show how Joseph sees God's faithfulness through both pain and promise. When the famine arrives, Joseph is ready. Egypt has food while the rest of the world suffers. People from many nations come to Joseph for help. The very one who was once sold as a slave is now a source of life for others. This passage teaches us that God can elevate you at the exact right time, but the process often involves seasons of waiting, testing, and refining. Joseph did not rush his promotion. He walked in integrity, served faithfully, and waited for God to open the door. And when it opened, he was ready. God does not forget his promises. He prepares you so that when the moment comes, you are strong enough to carry it. Thank you for joining us for this incredible part of Joseph's journey. From prison to palace, from forgotten to favored, Joseph's rise reminds us that God never wastes our waiting. Every moment of pain, every test of character, every quiet act of faith was shaping Joseph for this divine assignment. And when the moment came, Joseph gave God the glory and served with wisdom, humility, and strength. If this message encouraged you, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more deep Bible studies, powerful prayers, and uplifting teachings. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you can walk with us through every chapter of God's Word. If you are in a season of preparation, uncertainty, or delay, leave us a comment or send us a message. We would be honored to pray for you and your family. All Bible verses used in this video are quoted from the King James Version, KJV, which is in the public domain and freely available for use. Our commentary, explanations, and additional content provided are original and intended for educational, inspirational, and devotional purposes. Please note, all interpretations, explanations, and commentary reflect exclusively our channel's perspective. You may feel hidden, but you are not forgotten. God is preparing you for a purpose greater than you can imagine.